Sarah watched her son Thomas waste away. Each day she sat by his bedside, feeling utterly helpless as she witnessed the life slowly drain from his small body. Each labored breath he took tore at her heart. The sound of his struggle echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of her inability to ease his suffering. A vicious fever ravaged his small body, leaving him pale and frail. His once vibrant eyes were now dull, and his energy, once boundless, was completely sapped. Doctors, helpless, could only offer grim pronouncements and sympathetic glances. Their words meant to comfort only deepened her despair. Hope, once a flickering candle, dwindled with each passing day. Sarah refused to surrender. She clung to the belief that there had to be a way to save her son. She scoured libraries, her eyes frantically scanning ancient texts. She spent countless hours poring over books, searching for anything that could offer a solution. Folklore, myths, anything that offered a glimmer of hope. She delved into the realms of the unknown, hoping to find a miracle hidden within the pages. She stumbled upon forbidden lore, whispers of ancient entities with powers beyond human comprehension. These texts spoke of beings that could alter fate itself. Desperation gnawed at her sanity, whispering dangerous possibilities. The more she read, the more she felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her. One name echoed in the texts: Asmodeus. The name sent chills down her spine, yet it also ignited a spark of hope. A demon, they called him, a collector of souls. The illustrations depicted a fearsome entity, one that could grant any wish, but at a terrible cost. He could heal any ailment, but his price was steep. The texts warned of the consequences, yet they also promised the impossible. Sarah shuddered, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The thought of making a deal with such a creature terrified her. Was she truly willing to bargain with such a creature? The question haunted her, but the image of her son, suffering and fading, pushed her forward. Was any price too high to save her son? The love she felt for Thomas was boundless, and she knew she would do anything to see him healthy again. The answer, born out of love and desperation, came swiftly. She knew what she had to do, no matter the cost. No price was too high. Sarah's resolve was unshakable. She would face any danger, make any sacrifice to save her son. The forbidden text spoke of a ritual, a summoning. Sarah, her hands trembling, gathered the necessary components. Her heart pounded a heavy tattoo against her ribs, a drumbeat of fear and desperate hope. In the dead of night, under the ghostly glow of the moon, she performed the ritual. Her voice, hoarse with fear and exhaustion, echoed the ancient words. The air grew thick, heavy with an unseen presence. A chill snaked down her spine, raising goosebumps on her skin. Shadows danced in the periphery of her vision, twisting into grotesque shapes. Fear, cold and sharp, threatened to overwhelm her. Then, a voice, deep, guttural, resonating with an ancient power that sent shivers down her spine. It spoke her name, sending a tremor through her very being. It offered her a deal. Thomas's life for a price. Terror warred with desperation in Sarah's heart. "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Save my son." The entity, Asmodeus, demanded a pact, a sacrifice, willingly given. The room was filled with an oppressive darkness, a sense of foreboding that seemed to seep into the very walls. The air was thick with tension, as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable. Sarah's blood, a testament to her desperation. She had tried everything, every possible cure, every prayer, but nothing had worked. Her hands trembled as she made the cut, the pain a distant echo compared to the agony of watching her son suffer. A single drop, drawn by a silver blade under the pale light of the moon. The blade, an ancient relic, seemed to hum with a life of its own, as if it knew the gravity of the act it was being used for. The moonlight cast an eerie glow, making the blood shimmer as it fell. It fell onto the ancient symbol, etched on the floor, sizzling like acid. The symbol, a complex web of lines and curves, seemed to absorb the blood, glowing faintly as it did. The air grew colder, the temperature dropping rapidly as the ritual progressed. The air crackled with energy, the room pulsating with an unseen force. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being stretched, twisted by the dark magic at play. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows growing longer and more menacing. Asmodeus spoke, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate in her very bones. His words were ancient, a language long forgotten by mankind, yet Sarah understood them perfectly. Each syllable was a promise, a threat, a binding contract that she could not escape. He promised to heal Thomas, to restore him to full health. The image of her son, pale and frail, flashed before her eyes. She could see him running, laughing, living a life free of pain. It was a vision she had clung to for so long, a dream she was willing to do anything to make real. But the price, he warned, would be steep. His eyes, glowing with an unholy light, bore into hers, as if searching her soul for any sign of hesitation. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of the cost of her decision. What the price was, he did not say. The ambiguity was terrifying, the unknown, a dark abyss that threatened to swallow her whole. But in that moment, nothing mattered more than saving Thomas. The future, with all its uncertainties, could wait. Sarah, blinded by her desperation, by the overwhelming need to save her son, didn't care. She agreed. Her voice, though shaky, was firm. The pact was made, the deal sealed with her blood. She felt a strange sense of calm, a quiet acceptance of her fate, a mother's love, a powerful motivator driving her to the edge of reason. The pact was sealed, the air grew still, and the oppressive presence lifted, leaving behind a chilling emptiness. The room, once filled with dark energy, was now eerily silent, as if the very essence of the place had been drained. The oppressive presence lifted, leaving behind a chilling emptiness. The symbols on the floor faded, the blood absorbed into the ground. The room, now just a room, felt strangely normal, as if the events that had transpired were nothing but a bad dream. Sarah collapsed, the adrenaline that had fueled her draining away, leaving her weak and trembling. Her body, pushed to its limits, could no longer support her. She fell to the ground, her mind a whirlwind of emotions, relief mingling with fear of the unknown. But deep inside, a flicker of hope. Thomas would live. The thought gave her strength, a small but powerful light in the darkness. She clung to it, knowing that whatever the future held, she had done what she had to do. For her son, for his life, she had made the ultimate sacrifice. The next morning, Sarah rushed to the hospital, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. She had spent the entire night tossing and turning, unable to shake off the dread that had settled in her chest. The hospital's sterile walls seemed to close in on her as she navigated the maze of corridors, each step echoing her anxiety. She found Thomas sitting up in bed, his eyes bright, a healthy flush on his cheeks. It was a sight she had almost given up hope of seeing. His smile was infectious, spreading warmth through her cold, worried heart. The transformation was nothing short of a miracle. The doctors were baffled, unable to explain the miraculous recovery. They huddled together, whispering and pointing at charts, their faces a mix of confusion and disbelief. Medical science had no answers for what had transpired overnight. Sarah only smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. She didn't need an explanation. She had her son back. The tears flowed freely, a release of all the pent-up emotions that had been building inside her. She held Thomas close, breathing in his scent, the scent of life, of hope. It was a moment she wanted to freeze in time, to hold on to forever. The feel of his small, warm body against hers was a reassurance she desperately needed. The fear that had been her constant companion for weeks seemed to recede, replaced by an overwhelming relief. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted off her shoulders, allowing her to breathe freely for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Thomas was alive, and that was all that mattered. The world outside the hospital room faded away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of joy and gratitude. She whispered promises of a future filled with love and laughter into his ear. The price, whatever it was, seemed insignificant in that moment of pure joy. Days turned into weeks, and the initial euphoria gave way to a new routine. Thomas grew stronger, his laughter filling the house once more. The sound was a balm to Sarah's soul, a constant reminder of the miracle she had witnessed. Thomas grew stronger, his laughter filling the house once more. He ran through the rooms, his energy boundless, his joy infectious. It was as if the dark days had never happened, as if they were just a bad dream that had finally ended. Life settled into a semblance of normalcy. They had dinner together, shared stories, and made plans for the future. The house was filled with the sounds of a family rediscovering its rhythm, its heartbeat. Sarah, however, couldn't shake off a lingering unease. In the quiet moments when Thomas was asleep and the house was still, the doubts crept in. She found herself staring out the window, lost in thought, wondering what the future held. Asmodeus had not revealed his price. The pact she had made weighed heavily on her mind. What had she agreed to in exchange for her son's life? The uncertainty gnawed at her, a constant undercurrent of fear. The pact hung over her head, a dark cloud threatening to burst. The silence was unnerving. She knew that the day of reckoning would come, and she could only hope that she would be ready to face whatever Asmodeus demanded. Until then, she would cherish every moment with Thomas, holding on to the fragile hope that they could outwit the darkness that loomed on the horizon.